Hello, Joel Tadman here from Golf Monthly. We're at West Hill today taking a look at the new TaylorMade M3 and M4 irons. Now, I would say that these irons represent a minor evolution of the irons that they replace in the M1 and the M2 irons, with the addition of one key new technology. It's something TaylorMade are calling ribcore, which comprises essentially two structures behind the face in the heel and toe area, two kind of supports, if you like, that make those areas of the face more stable and more rigid, reducing the amount of energy that is lost on shots across the face. And what that means is that hopefully you should get more ball speed on different strike points across the face. This is of course helped by the inclusion of face slots. We saw that in the M1 and the M2 irons. They carry over into the M3 and M4 irons for 2018. The premise of these irons is the same. They're both game improver clubs. They sit in between the P790 and the MCGB irons, so should suit a wide variety of handicaps and playing styles. The M3, obviously being the M1 replacement, is slightly more compact and also slightly more expensive because they've got some tungsten weighting here in the toe to support the face and give you more forgiveness, whereas the M4 is a slightly larger club. It's designed predominantly for distance, for slower swing speeds, golfers who struggle to hit the middle of the face consistently. The M4 is the way to go for those type of golfers. Before we talk about the numbers that we got with these clubs, let's talk about the looks of them, because that plays a big part in the confidence that we get over the ball. The M3 has a much cleaner look. You see the M4 has the kind of colour scheme of the M3 and M4 woods, that blue and red on there, whereas the M3 has more subtle look to it. I like what TaylorMade have done with the look of these clubs actually. They've rounded off the top line, so kind of giving it more of a beveled edge, which makes it look a little bit thinner, although it is still quite thick, certainly in the M4 iron. As expected, the M3 being a slightly more compact iron, has a narrower sole, less offset, thinner top line, all those kind of things to inspire more to the mid to low handicapper, whereas the M4 looks like a game improver club. It's got a thicker top line, it's probably got a longer blade length as well, so it looks to have slightly longer blade length, wider sole, all those sorts of things to help inconsistent ball strikers manage their misses and get more overall distance. So that's the difference in looks. I've been testing them over at Foresight HQ in Guildford using the GC Quad launch monitor and premium golf balls, so we'll take a look at the data in a second. Worth noting, I've got the M3 in the True Temper XP100 shaft in S300 and the M4 I've got in the KBS Max 85, which is a new shaft TaylorMade have put in to this iron, in stiff as well, so both stock stiff options. Let's take a look at the numbers, see what differences in performance we got. Right, so let's look at the numbers then for the TaylorMade M3 and M4 irons. Worth noting that we did have a hit with them today here on the range at West Hill, because we hit the 7 iron in both of them, and the M3 iron has a loft of 30.5 degrees and the M4 has a loft of 28.5 degrees. So very strong lofted indeed for that 7 iron in the M4, but worth noting they are the same loft as the previous generation. And the shaft length hasn't changed too, so the same spec from generation to generation. We're going to do some other videos about how old to new compares in terms of performance, but in this video we're talking about M3 versus M4. Really interesting numbers actually. As expected, the M4 with that stronger loft did give us more distance, an average carry of whopping 182 yards compared to 176 yards with the M3. Interesting comparison here is that the ball speed with that stronger loft was obviously higher with the M4, but even though it was 2 degrees stronger lofted, the launch angle was pretty much exactly the same with M4 and M3. So you can see TaylorMade are justified in strengthening those lofts because the technology is there to get the ball up in the air and get it launching nice and high. You can see actually my ball flight was higher with the M4, peaking at 40 yards compared to 38 with the M3. Spin was pretty similar between the two actually, 4,400 RPM give or take. Dispersion on both of these irons was pretty tight. You know I'm a big fan of face slots in the past. I've mentioned it before how they seem to work in providing more consistent ball speed and accuracy on those miss hits, and you see here the differences in my shortest and longest shots on both of the irons was pretty tight, and the accuracy left to right was also pretty impressive. So what are the key differences between the two? Like I said, the M3 doesn't quite have the distance of M4, but it still goes a long way, average carry of 176 yards. So still a very high performing 7 iron indeed. If you're looking for out and out distance and forgiveness, the M4 is the iron you should go for out of the two, whereas the M3 does offer a little bit more playability. It's more compact, Perhaps you can work the ball a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, the ball flight is very stable, but I think it's just the general profile of it is going to appeal more to mid to low handicappers who might feel the M4 is a bit chunky for them. Plus the distances of the M3 are marginally more playable. If, like for me, a 7-iron going 182 yards would create some serious gapping issues in the wedge end of my bag. It's worth noting that if you've got a slow swing speed, the M4 is really going to help you out. You can see that it's got no issue in getting the ball up in the air easily and stopping it as well with a descent angle of 50 degrees. But that low spin is also going to help create the distance as well as the ball speed of 123 miles an hour, which is 3 miles an hour quicker than the M3. So worth noting that with the ripcord technology, I would definitely say that the sound and feel has improved slightly compared to the M1 and M2. Just seems to be more of a duller, quieter sound, more of a thud sound impact compared to M1 and M2. Across the board, some really good improvements from TaylorMade. Don't forget to watch my other videos on how the M1 and M3 compare as well as the M2 and M4, but see some discerning differences between M3 and M4 depending on what you're looking for. So make sure you check them out when they hit the shelves on February 16th.